You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market. From unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the option block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from RCM Asset Management, Andrew the Rock Lobster Joe Vanazzi from OptionPit.com, and Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the option block.
All right, everybody, that rockin' tune means it's time for what we hope is a rockin' show. Yep, it's time for the option block. Bi-weekly, Monday, Thursday, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. Tune in live. You get the goodness beamed directly to your ear holes via the old Mixlers, of course, for all of you after the fact. We like you guys too. We're big fans of podcasts here, so we know you like to get it whenever you can on your own schedule, your commute, when you're working out. We're fans of that as well, but if you're hardcore, we got a nice little fun live stream available for you there as well. Of course, wherever you tune in live after the fact, make sure you hit us up. Questions, comments, insights, all that good stuff. We do actually like to hear from you guys. We churned through a lot of your questions last week in our big Thanksgiving listener palooza. That was fun. Maybe we'll have to do that again. Maybe there are more holidays coming up, so maybe we'll put another one or two of those in the old hopper for those. So get those questions in if you haven't done so already. And of course, wherever you listen, make sure, if you are so motivated, if you like what you hear, leave a nice little review there. It helps with all the search and the finding of our shows on these various platforms, which are legion. We're up on all of them these days, so it always helps to have easy search for our stuff. All right, and joining me on the old program today, let's start off in the pickle/water garden capital of the world, a.k.a. St. Charles, Illinois, where we are joined by Uncle Mike Tosaw from RCM Wealth Advisors. Uncle Mike, welcome back to Ye Old Show, sir.
Well, the first thing I got to say is never in the history of the entire stock market has there ever been a better time to sell than today. Now, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm bearish by any means, but excited about the show today nonetheless.
You've just been waiting. You've been waiting to strap on the old all-time highs banner, and now you can, sir. So ballyhoo to you. And also joining us, I believe, who knows, from parts unknown, we shall find out. I believe we got the meatball himself, Mr. Greasy Meatball, Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. Mr. Meatball, are you there, sir? And if sir, where the heck are you beaming in from?
So I'm about to walk out of my house. So we narrowly avoided Ames Elementary School yet again, but everything is, I'm in beautiful Riverside. I will be in the city later today. I'm going to see my wife's writer, Sally Steele, in an improv show called The Bar Show. And it's apparently a bunch of lawyers that do improv comedy. Who'da thunk?
That sounds...
But that is where I'm beaming from today.
That sounds like high comedy, sir.
I got lots to talk about.
Sounds like high comedy. Who knew your wife had writers? I think my wife should get a few writers, too, to help her with some pearls of wisdom here. There always would be fun. All right, with the team assembled, let's dive right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block. Like the man said, this is indeed the portion of the program where we break down what was lighting it up in today's market activity, and a lot was doing just that. You know, we saw, I think, a confluence of events. We saw some strong numbers coming out of some of the retail side of the space, which is a bit of a refreshing change coming after on the heels of Walmart last week, really showing that they're not scared of no Amazon out there. They're doing their own thing, rally ho mode for them. We also have people clearly not scared about what's going down in D.C. over there, not even scared about some missiles lurking out of North Korea. So none of that can derail the train because most of the major indices up and up hard on the day today. Most of them closing up, about 1% after being in rally ho mode even beyond that intraday. The Dow leading the charge today, up closing the day nearly up 1.5%. So good day for Dow folks. I know we don't talk Dow a lot, but it's getting a lot of love today, so we might as well give Dow a little love here on the show. Of course, breaking through the old 24,000, hitting another even number 1,000 milestone, which is crazy. It doesn't seem that long ago that it was Time had a big picture of a bull, maybe Newsweek had a bull on the cover, and he was doing curls with the dumbbell said 8,000 on the Dow, and it was a big deal that the Dow was even approaching that, and here we are now 3x that. So just absolutely crazy. Fifth 1,000 point milestone for the Dow this year. It first broke 20,000 just back in January. Seems like just yesterday we were hanging in the low 20s, and now here we are, 24,000. This is pretty much just about a month after the last time we broke an even number 1,000 milestone. In fact, we're at 24,276, so we might hit 25,000 in a couple of days if this keeps up. So far Dow up over 20, actually about 21% so far this year. So a good year for all the bulls out there, Dow included, of course, of the S&P and the Qs. Rally ho mode as well, perhaps not quite as strong on a percentage basis, right around 0.9% for both of those to finish up the day, but still strong days. 2650 rounding out the day on the SPX. I think we got as high as 57, I believe, on the SPX. Yeah, 2657 was the high of the day out there in the S. So strong numbers pretty much across the board. So let's start out there in St. Charles, because I know he's been waiting for this day for a long time. Uncle Mike, sir, I know you're just super excited about all things Dow today. Is that not true, sir?
I'm more of an S&P guy, but nonetheless, the Dow crossing the milestone is always very exciting, and having it continue to go and just pretty much crossing it and not caring that it was above the milestone and just kept going up.
You didn't get the show notes? So it's all Dow today. All Dow all the time. No S&P allowed.
Crap. I thought you meant Dow Chemical when I saw the show notes. Shoot, I messed that up. Darn it. No, just kidding. But today was it's a fun day when you're long for obvious reasons. A lot of news that happened today. Looks like the tax bill is going to pass. McCain said that he's going to vote for it now. The senator from Maine said that she's undecided, but nonetheless, it looks like there's support for that. No one seems to care about the fact that North Korea is saying that they have missiles that can go all the way to Washington, D.C. right now. And the market just continues to not care about that fact by any means. So we have that. The strong retail numbers, like you had said. A couple other things going on today as well. We have energy is actually increasing quite a bit today. That's up over 1%. I'm sorry, that's up over 1.6%. And I'm referencing to XLE. Oil itself was relatively flat. So we had a lot going on today. Now, I'm excited to hear Mr. Seabass's talk on the VIX today, because one of the things that I noticed that seemed rather unique was the fact and how when we rallied today, when the S&P intraday, we actually rallied roughly. The rally started probably around 10:40 Chicago time, and then it peaked out at probably about 11:50 Chicago time, and then we came down a little bit from there, and the market was still higher on the day. But that particular move, I found interesting from the fact that the VIX appeared to be going up at the same time that the S&P was going up, and that's not something you really see every day. So I'm excited to hear what the greasy meatballs take on the VIX is as of today. So we have that in terms of various companies doing what they do. For the most part, it looks like the sell-off in technology, not today but yesterday, has appeared to be more of a buying opportunity with how it was answered today. And just with everything that we have going on right now, the thing that is probably the laggard, at least in the Uncle Mike portfolio, has been SLV. I remember all these collars and all these wonderful things that I told you about earlier in the year. We got into SLV when it was like 1573 and it's at like 1550 right now. So it's kind of been an exciting road to nowhere in that I haven't been a lot of a movement in the one thing that if I were to predict, would have predicted a lot of movement on the year 11 months ago. I would have predicted the biggest mover, for better or for worse, would have been silver, but it has not been. So we have that. And let's see, there's always Bitcoin. We have that to talk about. So with all these things to talk about, I'm going to yield my seat to Mr. Longo and or the greasy meatball at this point.
You know, we'll get to the meatball in a bit. Because you're right, I didn't even mention, you know, we're so excited about all things Dow. You know, our Dow-a-palooza. That we can't really talk VIX then if we're talking all Dow, right, Uncle Mike? Because you know, VIX has nothing to do with Dow. There is the Dow VIX, but no one talks about such things. So we'll just talk about the old VIX. He brought me back to it. It's gonna be all Dow all the time, Uncle Mike. You ruined our Dow-palooza. This show brought to you by the Dow Jones Industrial Average. But, of course, yeah, VIX in rally-ho mode today as well. A bit of a rare occurrence, as Uncle Mike pointed out, where we see such strong love in the broad indices and such strong love out there in VIX land. VIX actually breaking the 12 handle out there in VIX cash today, 12.05 on the high side, about 10.5 on the low side. Settling out pretty much Goldilocks right in the middle, right around 11 and a quarter to finish out the day. So funky stuff. A lot of that probably some juice coming from all the stuff going on out there in the space these days. Of course, the tax debate, maybe a little North Korea kerfuffle in there. Speaking of North Korea, it's kind of funny, a little side here. I had someone who's been telling me for months now that they had a great old school backdoor way to figure out when North Korea was firing missiles ahead of when everyone else found out about it. He's been telling me this for a long time, and I've kind of just been poo-pooing him, saying, okay, sure, I'll believe it when I see it. So, to his credit, this person, I did get an email from him randomly earlier this week saying, North Korea just launched a missile. I was like, okay, sure. And then sure enough, 10 minutes later, or 15 minutes later, it did hit the news wires. So his system, to his credit, old school and antiquated as it might be, did actually work and did beat the major news wires by about 15 minutes. Fortunately for him, he thought it was a free-for-all to launch some spoos. He launched, 50 or 100 at, I think it was in this 60 handle maybe. I forgot exactly where he got filled, or maybe, I forgot exactly. But either way, everyone thought it would be a bonanza for a sell-off, and what we saw was, I think he got a couple of handles out of it maybe before he had to scramble the cover, because the market clearly has shrugged off all concerns of North Korea. So something that years ago would have been just an instant, at least 10 handles in the S&P turned instead into a quick rally, and he had a cover to avoid losing his shirt. So his system worked. The methodology worked in terms of getting the messaging out, but the market did not play ball, which is an interesting thing to. I don't know at this point. I don't know what it takes to spook this bear, but clearly North Korea having missiles that could reach anything, it ain't going to do it. Speaking of not going to do it, we'll see if Mr. Meatball is going to do it or not. Mr. Meatball, are you there, sir?
I am indeed. Yeah, really weird day. They're apparently, it's a weird day when we have backwardation and the VIX is like 10. Just a crazy price action in VIX. Really, what we're seeing is that, in essence, we got a pretty strong move out of the cash index and almost nothing out of the futures. And just all in all, just a weird day. And so something's got to give. Either VIX futures are going to tank and the VIX is going to go back to 10, or this S&P rally is completely screwed up and backward and on its head, and volatility is going to go stay high or go through the roof. But I think the way I see things lining up, I'm wondering if this is the classic sell the news and sell vol at the same time. I have not seen that trade set up in a long time, but if anything sets up for sell the news, sell vol, I think it is, in fact, what I'm looking at now.
Speaking of sell the news, sell vol, Obviously, we were just talking about it a little bit earlier, Mike and I. It was one of those weird days where we see, of course, S&P up, VIX up, odd, let alone sometimes we see little aberrations coming in after a holiday or a long weekend. See a nice little pop for the VIX when the market can rally. But this is a little bit perhaps more than that, shall we say. Got a lot of people scratching their heads. I usually will save these for listener mail. We'll filter one up now just because it's fun. This is from Henry Gannett. I think he might have sent this to you on Twitter too, Mark, as well. I don't know. He said, he obviously is a listener to the show, though. He says, is VIX way up today due to call buying / pricing? It's at 1170 right now, so at the time he wrote this, instead of maybe at 9 at other recent XPX all-time highs. This is how I know he's a listener. He says, the VIX is umbraging me right now. So clearly he had some shorts on, not getting the love to the downside in the VIX that perhaps he wanted. I don't know, Mr. Meatball, what say you to his umbrage? What do you think is driving all this madness today?
Like I think it was tax reform. I think people are counting on tax reform, and that is what is going to be driving. That is what drove trading. So if it doesn't happen, then there's going to be a reason to have some insurance. I think the market's going to sell off. So I think you were just seeing people buying the dip and buying volatility at the same time. You also probably had a little reaction to kind of the last 2 days of the NDX, and we've had a major move up and down in the NDX. So that is kind of what's thrown things around. Those are the two things that I think are really driving things.
Speaking of driving, we have a name that you guys like to talk about every now and then. We get to it often in the Odd Block. That has a lot to do with driving. So let's drive on over to it and kick off the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
Listeners, I'm going to have a bone to pick with our friends over there at Live Vol. Welcome, of course, to the Odd Block. This is indeed the portion of the show where we usually kick things off, breaking down all the craziness going on in Tesla. These Tesla madness puts. Maybe Uncle Mike or Mr. Meatball, you can do a little search here while I vamp for a little bit. For our old friends, the Tesla Jan 2019 50 puts. That's usually where we kick off the Odd Block. I say usually because our friends over there at Live Vol, for some reason, these days in their settings, and I didn't see it till just now. I'll have to go play around with a way to fix it. But they must not listen to the show because they took those strikes away. They only start at the where do they start in Jan? They start in the 290 strike now in Jan. What fun is that? Only keeping things to the relevant strikes. Well, how are we supposed to do our business, our duty here? So I don't know, Mr. Meatball, you got any color on anything lighting up on those crazy puts today?
So, all right, Mark. Well, let's. How many do you think traded today?
You're gonna turn the tables on me?
Yeah. How many of these traded today? Do you have to get the Jan 2019 50s? That's the one we like to look at, right?
That is indeed the one.
How many traded today?
I like this. Turnabout is fair play, sir. So I will allow you to have your moment in the sun. This is the name they usually do 30 to 50 odd on a good day. Today is kind of a weird day though, so I'm feeling a weird number. I'm going to say 212.
Wow, that was close. 197.
Wow.
197.
I've been doing this for a little while. I just know in the air when it's a weird day for Tesla puts.
Current open interest is a cool 34,199. We had a busy day of these on the 29th yesterday. Almost 1,000 traded yesterday. So a little more juice there, but 34,199. They're currently 65.71, carrying a cool implied volatility of 82. Meanwhile, so I can sell these. The premium on these is just mad. It's mad. I mean, someone clearly thinks that I think this is a bondholder or something, but those are just, it is madness, the level those trade.
That's some good juice. We had a listener write in last week, said he thought it was people hedging their deposits for Model S. He said the Model 3 deposit was 5,000. I thought it was only 1,000, but maybe if he's right, 5,000, then that would work out on the 50 strike perhaps. I've seen weirder suggestions for what that could be, but I don't see how's that. I've been doing this for a while. My barometer for funky Tesla put action, Mr. Meatball, pretty good these days, I think.
Yeah, it is. That's not bad. But I really doubt it's for the deposit. I think, what's the deposit, like $1,000?
I thought he said 5,000. I thought it was 1,000 though. I think it's 1,000.
I thought, yeah, but even and one of these options is 700, so you're not really getting a decent hedge. And yeah,
that's a lot to shell out. Yes.
any moron who don't know. Listen, with all due respect, a couple of my clients have deposits down on Tesla. I berated them to their face. I said, why in the world would you do something like that? You're not going to see the car for another 15 years. It's madness that company. Elon Musk was actually in the news today. I don't know if you saw that, but he wants to build the Hyperloop connecting downtown Chicago to Chicago O'Hare. So maybe that's why the volume was higher.
Because there's nothing there that you'd have a problem digging up between downtown Chicago and O'Hare. Nothing in your way, maybe, to digging a massive tunnel. That wouldn't be a massive public works project.
Yeah, you can put it right under the Kennedy. Why not, right?
There you go.
How can you lose?
There you go. Nothing. No one would have an issue with that. Another day, another headline from Mr. Musk, but funky action on the puts. I'm liking my put indicator. It's not really a useful skill, but it's fun nonetheless to be able to prognosticate about weird options action. Speaking of weird options action, we got more of it in store for you. Don't worry. It ain't all Tesla puts all the time. I was going to kick things off in Mr. Weston. This is one of the Meatball's favorites. I think Mr. Uncle Mike likes his X's. I'm not sure if he likes XRT though. XRT, of course, the S&P Retail ETF. Excuse me. I know Mr. Meatball loves playing in the retail sector. A name that does nearly 20,000 contracts a day. Today, doing a little over 3x that, doing over 60,000 today. About 3-to-1 puts over calls, and a bit of a funky three-way. I think funky three-ways may actually be our narrative here for the odd block today. We're going to kick things off, though, in XRT, looking at, call it a funky ratio risk reversal, or maybe calls with a stupid ratio kicker. You can call it whatever you like. It was the DEES contract, not the monthlies, but the weeklies expiring on the 29th, so a little bit farther out. You got about a nice calendar month or so to go on these bad boys. And what we saw starting off the day, it looks like a little more piled in afterwards, but what we saw starting off the day was, again, a funky ratio three-way. It started off with 24,000 of these DEES 42 puts hitting the bid, with about 12,000 of the DEES 44 puts also going up on or around the bid. Doing that one by two, because 12,000 of the 44 puts, let me just reiterate that, 12,000 of the 44 puts going up for 93 cents, 24,000, so 2x of the 42 puts. It reads like a stupid, but I would have a hard time feeling that wasn't some sort of ratio. Very rarely do we see ratio stupids. And then, as the extra kicker, if that wasn't enough, we've got the DEES 46 calls, again, expiring on the 29th in the weeklies, going up 12,000 times as well for 30 cents. So if it went up as a spread, then this guy did the whole thing. Perhaps if he did indeed buy those DEES 44 puts, then he could have done it for close to even money on the ratio. But either way, this is a funky one. Speaking of funky, a little more, the ratio actually is a little bit different, because the more the DEES 44 puts traded afterwards, totals like 18,000 have gone up, so another 6,000 went up. So the ratios are all out of whack. Let's just look at it as it looks like on the surface, which is one of our more typical trades, which is the old bullish risk reversal, which is selling puts to buy finance, buying calls. In this case, looks like if they could have, on the surface, perhaps added a farther out of the money put kicker and decided to do that for 2x, because, hey, why the heck not? You're in for a penny, in for a whole lot of pounds. Let's look here at what the year's been like out here in XRT. Probably doesn't take a crystal ball for you guys to figure out the year pretty much hasn't been the best for retailers, with the exception of the past few weeks. I mentioned Walmart and some other names coming out this week have kind of bucked the trend of the death of retail, and now we're seeing XRT was trading actually in the high 30s just about a week or two ago, and now hitting up into the mid to low 40s. So it's been a little bit of a rally ho mode here in XRT. So it could be it's foreseeable that someone would want to put on a bullish risk reversal out here. Splitting the strikes is kind of weird, though. So Mr. I apologize, Mr. Meatball. Let's just read it. Well, you can read it how you like. Maybe you think it's something else. But if it is done as stupid ratio stupid, I have a hard time saying that with a straight face. A ratio stupid to finance the calls. What make you of that? What do you even think of that strategy?
I don't think it's a ratio stupid. My guess is it's like a ratio spread, and the reason why that they both were kind of on the bid was they were just using one to finance the other, and that was the way they could get the price best. And then that's not me. So the I don't know what that was. But I think that this is just calls versus a put ratio. And, for all we know, it could have been some sort of collar type trade. But I don't think that this is put stupid financing long calls. I'm going to go out and guess that is a long call versus a put ratio, or it's the opposite. It's some sort of put ratio versus calls.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can't, as fun as it is to say, or maybe as difficult as it is to say, ratio put stupid versus calls. It goes against all of my years of doing this to say that something like that is going up out there. Either way, XRT, funky name, funky action going on out there. Listeners, you guys have no shortage of your own opinions. Let us know about that. I'm guessing you guys not on board the funky ratio put stupid versus calls either. I've seen some weird bullish risk reversals in my day. I'm not sure if I've ever seen that set up, if that's the case. Then you really want to get those calls for nothing. So you're just blasting out every put on the planet. Let's move on and talk about funky three-ways. That's our narrative. It continues here in, what do we got? We got Aetna Inc., ticker symbol AET, closing today $180.17. This is the name that does about 4,000 contracts a day, doing a little bit more than that, to the tune of 60,000 today. So quite a bit more, about nearly 2-to-1 calls over puts, about 1.7 to 1 calls leading the chart. This is another funky one, Mr. Meatball, for a couple of reasons. I started off, first blush, look at it, say, it's just kind of a similar trade, actually. Calls with a put spread to go along with it, perhaps a put spread with a call kicker, vice versa. What we saw, but then you look at it a little bit more and you realize, actually, there's a whole lot of time between one of these legs and the other. So it started off with paper picking up about 5,000. The Jan 185s, Jan expiring next year, 2018. So just about a little less than 2 months on these bad boys. Picking up 5,000 of them for $3, getting close to the offer on those. So it looks like they wanted to buy some of those bad boys. Opening, there's only about 1,300 contracts there, so opening paper. As the day went on, a total of, how many did they pile in? A total of nearly 15,000. So nearly 3x going up on, actually, I'm sorry, I take that back. Those are the D's. I'm looking at the Jan 185s. Have a little bit, they have, their OI is pretty negligible, only about 1,300. So they were clearly opening, and total on the day, they put up about 16,000. So quite a bit piling, about 3x after, all pretty much in kind of equal sized blocks throughout the day. And then we also saw the funky put spread, but not, also in Jan, but not the same Jan. Not Jan 2018, not even Jan 2019. No. We saw the 180-150 put spread going up 5,000 times. Looks like paper buying the put spread, so lifting the offer close to it on the 180 puts, 15 double for those, and then turn around selling out the 150 puts for right around $5. Doing that 5,000 times again in 2020. Doing that total on the day, because we know more paper came in on those as well. Let me just scroll all the way down to 2020 and find that total of 11,000 on the day. So they came in, did equal size blocks again, then they did another 1,000 to boot, just for good measure. So it looks like we got paper buying the long-term Jan 2020 180, 150 put spread, which is an at the money put spread. The 180 strike is exactly where at the money is now. And then looks like turning around and also deciding, we like to get ourselves some of them there Jan 185s. Those are expiring in less than 2 months. So a little bit of near-term upside love and a whole bunch of perhaps long-term downside concern. Let's see what's on the charts here, which might give us some insight into why they would act this way. And it's been an interesting year out here for Aetna as well, hitting its nadir back, about 116 back at the end of January this year. Ever since then, it's kind of been in this nice rally ho mode. Again, hit about 116 and getting all the way up recently up to over, pretty much around here, right around 180. And actually I take that back, up to 183. 185 actually, back on the 26th, so about a month ago. So interesting stuff out here, hovering right around 180. So it's been a strong rally ho year for Aetna. Perhaps someone looking to protect in some longer term gains on the underlying. So I get the put spread, but then also I guess deciding, hey, I still like this thing. I want to also load up on some calls for $3 that go away in less than 2 months. Mr. Meatball, I'm guessing you're on board with the put spread, that you see the utility for that. What do you think about this call kicker?
Yeah, that's a weird trade. I'm wondering if it's like some sort of stock position that was rolled or moved around, or the duration of the trade changed. Thus, he's doing this trade. But the Jan versus the Jan leaps is an oddity, to say the least. I was surprised when that was the way the trade formed together.
Yeah, I don't really think of too many use cases I can see where people want to hedge long term. Then also, I think it's going to keep rallying. I'm also going to get a little upside, unless they don't have the underlying, in which case maybe they use the calls as a surrogate there. But then that would be a weird, interesting. You don't see a lot of. We've seen them obviously, but you don't see a lot of outright long-term bearish specking like that if you don't typically have a put spread like that. If you don't typically have the underlying, so an interesting play there. Either way, again, funky three ways was kind of our narrative. Let's see if we can keep that up. No, we don't keep up the three-way love for our final name, listeners. But we get call love. Is that good enough for you? Size call love today in Caesars Entertainment Corp. Ticker symbol CZR, Caesar. Closing today about 13 1/4, up a little over 1%. This is the name that does about 8,000 contracts a day. Today doing 36,000, almost 37,000. 25 to 1 calls over puts. If you pull up the options change for Caesar, you don't have to scroll far to see exactly what the hell was lighting it up. It was all Dees 13.5 calls, but interestingly enough, it came in two trades, two sizable chunks. Someone today decided, I got to get me some of that 13.5 strike. I don't care where I do it. So 20, almost 21,000 of these came in the 13.5 calls that are expiring tomorrow, going up for, looks like prices around, about 15 cents or so. So yes, almost 21,000 going up on a call that expires tomorrow. So people always ask, when are we going to get dailies? There you go. We got them already. Only 26 contracts open. So clearly opening crazy upside paper here in Caesars. And then they decided, maybe we should play it safe. We should be a little more level-headed here. Let's go out a week and pick up a whole bunch more. So they picked up another 7,000 of these Dees 13.5 calls that go out on the 8th, so a whopping week from now, doing that 7,277 times. A little more OI to speak of there, about 5,000, so perhaps they're piling in there. But either way, they did close to 30,000 of these calls today. The vast majority of them expiring tomorrow. So someone, shall we say, has a bit of an axe to grind in Caesars tomorrow. Either they're really scared of this blowing through a short at the 13.5 strike, or they really think they know something in Caesars, and they're willing to put about 30,000 contracts on the line to do it. Let's look back here and see what's up in Caesars for the past year. And it's not like it's really exploded through that strike. It has beaten it a few times, got up about 13.5 back about 2 months ago or so, and it flirted with 13 double actually just yesterday. So it has been at this level very recently. So it's not the craziest trade, I suppose. It started off the year actually pretty weak. Started off the year about 7.25. So it's been a nice, pretty much doubling during 2017 here for Caesars, like a lot of the names we saw out here. Good year, for unless you're in retail, of course. So someone, Mr. Meatball, take us home here. Someone likes the 13.5 strike in Caesars, and they like it a whole lot, and they like it by tomorrow.
We are looking like they're setting this thing up to move. You don't see that kind of trading usually, but that is they're not expecting anything other than a nice little pop here. Lots of upside.
All right, speaking of Pops, we got to figure out what's up with Pops, a.k.a. Uncle Mike there. Sounds like the hurricane is just invading his town. We'll see if we can work it out for him, though, listeners, because it's Thursday. We want to get him on because it's time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
All right, listeners, let's see if the Skype gods have been appeased, if Uncle Mike has returned to us from whatever. I thought the weather shield was active out there in St. Charles, Uncle Mike, but apparently the hurricane is moving through town. Are you there, sir?
Even St. Charles is not immune to Skype freaking out on you at times.
Apparently, Skype was not your friend. Well, obviously, it doesn't sound as good as a Skype connection, but we'll take a little Uncle Mike versus no Uncle Mike, listeners. So, Uncle Mike, inauspicious conditions aside, sir, it's Thursday. It's strategery time. What do you got in store for us, sir?
Well, today was a fun day, and I'm going to actually talk about buying front month out of the money calls and the power of gamma. Now, before I get into this, I've been doing this for roughly 15 years or so, and I think I've bought out of the money front month calls. I mean, I've done them in combinations with other things, but I think I've just straight up bought front month out of the money calls maybe less than 10 times in my entire trading career. But these last couple weeks, I've been doing it, and, it's been kind of fun. But let me explain why I'm doing it and the power of why it can work. First off, let's go over gamma. Gamma is how much the delta of an option can change with a 1-point movement in the underlying. So in other words, if you buy an out-of-the-money call option, and let's say it has a 20 delta, should the stock move $1, let's say, then based on what the gamma is, how far out of the money is, and that type of thing, that option then goes from being a 20 delta call to, say, a 30 delta call. It might be a little more, might be a little bit less. Just depends on what the stock is and a variety of factors. But the concept is that as an option moves in your favor, assuming all other factors remain constant, then that option is going to become more powerful because of, gamma. So about a month ago, I kind of was looking at the overall returns for the SPY levered bullish strategy that I do, that I talk about on the show a lot. And I'm thinking, okay, we've had a really good year so far this year. And my thought is that, I don't want to take a good year and turn it into a bad year. And if things don't go so well for me in the next couple months, then I could easily make a good year into a bad year. And that's not what I want to do. However, the conundrum with which I face was that, I'm still pretty bullish on this market. So what can I possibly do to have bullish participation yet limit risk? Well, with the VIX at the 9 level, I kind of made it look to me where I'm thinking, okay, let's go ahead and buy some out of the money calls. And at the time it was, I believe, late October when I started this. So I didn't go with front month totally. But what I did was I bought SPY was at roughly, I don't have the exact number, but it was at roughly 250. So I bought a December Q4 expiration 260 call. I paid a whopping 78 cents for it. And my thought was is that even if the market were to go to zero, I can handle a 78-cent loss, and I can still provide myself and my clients with a pretty nice rate of return this year. So as time went by, I was doing various things. I talked about it a little bit on the show to kind of scalp gammas, maybe sell some put spreads, things like that to finance the 78 cents. But I really didn't have to do too much for it because, well, it was 78 cents. Since then, over the course of the last couple of weeks, what I've been doing is just rolling that call higher. And the reason is that a good year has become a better year because of this, for obvious reasons. The market's gone higher. And as the market's gone higher, I look at that number there and the amount of premium that's in that, and I really don't want to lose what we were able to gain. So I've been rolling the call higher and higher. And now, currently, after the roll, as of today, we are along the 265 call for December Q4 expiration. Have some numbers of where I'll roll it up again. Probably if we have another 20-point move in the S&P, we'll roll that up again. But for the time being, what I'm doing is a lot of client money right now is on the sidelines. I often am talked about on this show about how I'm the perma bull, but the reality of it is that I'm long-term bullish, short-term cautious. And what I'm doing is I'm using out-of-the-money calls as a way to be a bull, but yet be short-term cautious. Am I bullish right now? Good gosh, yes. But the reality of this is that it would not surprise me one bit if we had a 40-point drop tomorrow in the S&P. It could happen. You never know. But that is where our risk management comes into play. If I just put in a stop loss on this call, on a call option that went, let's say I would have stayed with the 260, for example, I would have a lot of money on the table at this point in time. And if we have an overnight gap of some sort, I don't care how tight your stop loss is, if we have an overnight gap, the market doesn't care. So with that being said, the fact that we're able to play with, for lack of a better term, house money, we're able to continue to roll up the call options. VIX has remained relatively low. It has come up a little bit today, like we talked about during the trading block. But by doing this, I'm doing a strategy that it's really not my favorite by any means, but I'm able to limit risk by doing it. Yes, I've still have sold a few put spreads here and there to try and do a little bit more financing of it from time to time. I did sell a put spread yesterday, closed out of one today. I'm still trying to finance a little bit of it. But with that, it's a very minimal risk. And it's one of those things to where the bulk of where we are looking to create gain in the levered bullish SPY option strategy at this stage is coming from out of the money call options. So with that, that is what we're doing these days. And I have to admit, it is a ton of fun, but when the new year hits, I don't think we'll be continuing with this strategy for much longer. And that is the strategy block for today on the phone line.
Yes, the magic, the Alexander Graham Bell magic that is the telephone. Well done, sir. I'm glad you survived the horrible hurricane that is raging right now just a few miles west of Chicago here in St. Charles. Hope all the folks there are safe. Meanwhile, though, we're safe and sound here, so we're going to keep on rolling into a Thursday edition of the old mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block. This is indeed the portion of the program where we break down what exactly is moving and shaking out there in the world of options and what's on your radar, really. What you guys are asking us, what you want to know. And once in a while, we like to ask you guys questions too, turn the tables a little bit, see how it feels for us, get all the questions. We ask you guys questions. This week's question had to do with everyone's favorite name, SPY. We said, hey, SPY always dominates the overall volume charts, but what do you guys think people are actually trading in SPY? Take a guess at the top options position right now. No cheating or check in with your broker. Use the old gray matter or perhaps your gut if you want to go with the old gut to pick the right one. We gave you 4 choices. The Jan 262 call, again, this is going to change. So this was pretty much as of the evidence we had available to us when this first went live on Monday. So I can check now. Maybe it has changed in the subsequent 3 or 4 days, but still, we're going to go with those numbers we saw from Monday. And what we gave you from those were the Jan 262 calls, the DEIS 2019 150, yes, 150 puts, the DEIS 280 calls, or the Jan 240 puts. Uncle Mike will give your voice and your connection a rest. We'll turn to the Meatball instead. Mr. Meatball, I know you were thinking, maybe it was the Rock Lobster was on Monday, I think. Maybe he was thinking the Jan calls. What are you feeling of these 4 that you think is the number one spy play these days, sir?
I'm going to go the Jan call is leading the charge.
Interesting.
That is my guess. That is the one I would like best as well.
There you go. Talking a little bit of your book. You and your work wife having the same viewpoint there. Mr. Uncle Mike, I believe you were on the Jan call as well on Monday. You still there, sir?
I'm still here.
And are you still feeling the Jan call for your call as well?
Oh, yeah, 100%. No doubt about it.
You got 2 votes here for the old Jan 262 call. Let's see how our listeners are feeling. And so far, the leader is actually the Jan 240 put. I could see that. A lot of concern about hedging. You might think a put would be in the top place just because of what we talk about all the time, that juicy premium that's always there for the puts. They're always in high demand. But there are also a lot of selling, too. So it could be back and forth on both of those strikes. Could be size OI on both ways. So who knows? I could easily see an argument for the Jan puts. That is leading our poll so far. Number 2 is a tie between the DEIS 2019 150 puts, I love those, and the Jan 262 calls. And bring up the rear, it's pretty close, 22%. So it's 24% for the latter 2, and 22% for the plain old DEIS 280 call. I'm kind of torn if I should reveal the answers now because that will kind of obviate the rest of our poll. But people who don't listen will certainly have a little surprise waiting for. I'll just do it now because by the end of the week we'll probably talk about something else on vol views tomorrow anyway. So the numbers as we looked at them earlier this week, the number one with the bullet. I don't think I have the exact volume numbers in front of me. You can go look yourself, listeners, via your broker. Now that we've all voted, you can go look, or you can go use a platform like a LiveVol and do it yourself, or go, of course, use like a trade alert and they'll calculate it for you. And so far, it was the DEIS, the DEIS 280s, lighting it up with about 262,000 contracts open. So you guys were on the right tip, just the wrong month.
Of course.
I'll take it from your resounding silence.
Yes.
That both of you are just stunned. Both of you are just stunned. The DEIS, these were all real positions that we put here. These were all pretty sizable in and of themselves. So there is size open interest. I believe it was about 150,000 or a little more maybe perhaps for the DEIS 2019 150 puts. So there's some action there. The Jan 240 puts have about 188,000. So they're all pretty much in the top 10 or close to it. And the Jan 262 call, at least as of Monday, had about 152,000 contracts open. So all of them in the top 10 pretty much, but only one of them taking the charge, and that was the DEIS 280s. Thanks to all of you who played. If you don't listen, you can still play, or you can vote with the answer, because it's losing right now. Let's move on to, we got a few more minutes here. We also, you'll like this, Mr. Meatball. Your buddy here, what is it, Contango Trader. I know because you always slam Olive Garden on this program, of course, is not your favorite restaurant chain. He tweeted out something. I think he copied you on this too. He said, the best way to show off your Italian heritage, gluten-free. And it was a picture and a link to an article. And the picture was of Olive Garden. And the article title was, Couple Names First Child After Olive Garden. So there you go, Mr. Meatball. First of all, was this you? Are you the one?
Oh, and it was an abomination. What I saw. Their last name is Garten. They claim to be Italian, and they named her Olivia Garten. And then to make matters worse, if you keep reading the story, they made her middle name Michelle, so her initials are OMG. These people are cruel. One, they're tasteless because they like Olive Garden. Two, they named their daughter after Olive Garden, which is cruel and unusual. The good news for her is hope in my belief by the time she's old. Yeah, that's true. I did name my son after a purse. My son is Valentino. But if with any luck, little Olivia, 20 years from now, when she's old enough, or 15, Olive Garden will be out of business and/or under a new name, because people will go, why would I go to this subpar Italian restaurant when I can go to my local Italian food purveyor and have above average Italian food, the type of food that our moms used to make, the type of foods that I make, or Andrew T. Giovinazzi might make. Why would I go to a place where they microwave and process everything?
And
so anyway, I read the article and it made me throw up in my mouth.
I knew you'd love this one. That's why I had to bring it up on the show. That's just near and dear to your heart. And we all know these people were real Olive Garden fans. They would have named their kid Unlimited Salad and Breadsticks, which is of course the real signature of all things Olive Garden. Speaking of real, we got a real question here from the Real Ute. I'm trying to figure out what the Real Ute is asking. I'm guessing English, maybe perhaps not his first language, but we try to let everyone play on the show. He says, or perhaps she, I see that every strike have its own bid and ask prices with different volatility. Now my question is, can options be day trade? Are scalped just like with stocks, or is volatility only move a few times, maybe a month? Are from the options market open, the prices for option strikes will start to change just like how it's changing in the stock market. So I'm gonna read between the lines a little bit here and say that the Real Ute is asking a question we get a lot here on the show, actually, which is kind of going back to the old saw of our options really for longer term players, a few days, a week or more, or are they really for people who want to be aggressive swing traders? He's asking, does vol really change a lot intraday? And a lot of times it doesn't. Most of your products is not going to happen. But as we've seen in names like today, it can move intraday. So if you can find those names and certainly horn in on them, that's pretty much a viable strategy. In fact, Mark, isn't that a lot of what you guys try to do over there in the land of Carmen Line, sir?
That is exactly some of what we try and do. I think that saying what are options for is kind of like saying, what is a stick for, or a piece of wood? Because it has, not that. What is, there's so many different uses and ways to use them that, the answer is yes to everything. Our options for short-term trading, yes. Our options for mid-term trading, yes. Our options for income, yes. Our options for hedging, yes. Options are for whatever you can possibly dream up, and that's what makes them so spectacular.
I want to line a new backsplash in my kitchen with options. Yes, you're saying I could do that, so thank you, sir. That's not a bad idea, actually. I'll have to look into that, see if my wife will approve. Meanwhile, Uncle Mike, sir, if you survived the hurricane, any thoughts here on the myriad use cases of options, intraday, swing trade, long-term? What do you got for our friend here? I like the handle, the Real Ute. I'm not sure what a ute is. Maybe, and that's not a sport utility. It spells it differently, so I don't know what he's talking about. But Mr. Uncle Mike, you got anything for him?
Yes, that's my answer. Yes, I agree with Mark. I think that's a great way of putting it. In terms of using options for day trading, I think in recent years when spreads have become more narrow, is a doable thing that way, because I can remember 10 years ago just encouraging people to never use options for day trading and simply use futures. But I think in this day and age, if you can find a use for it, if Ute can find a use, then I say Ute should do it.
There you go, Ute. Hopefully that answers your question. It was a little fragmented, but we welcome people from all across, all over the world, not just those of you who like to hardcore sling spy puts from the U.S., even though we like you guys too. Speaking of which, let's keep rolling into our final segment. It is time for Around the Block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Around the Block. This is indeed the portion of the program where we tell you kind of what's on our radar. A lot of people had on their radar today a tax deal. Interesting stuff, of course, whenever you're playing the DC game, is a lot of wait and see. I think I'm with you guys, and where I think we had a listener write in on Monday's show saying this is going to be the big. I think they were thinking of it as this huge binary event for the market, kind of like an earnings event. I don't think it had that much resonance. Clearly, it had some, as you saw from today's action, but I don't know if it was as perhaps as momentous as our listener thought. But then again, watching all things the permutations. They're out of D.C. On the earnings front, there's not a heck of a lot left unless you're super excited about Five Below. I know Uncle Mike is popping off after the bell today. Maybe we'll check up on them, see how they're doing before we wrap up. Meanwhile, let's go back to the hinterlands. Uncle Mike, sir, what are you watching for the rest of this week, if anything? Are you just taking the week off? You napping?
I'm just taking the week off. I've had enough. No, definitely watching the tax bill. I think that today, with news coming out about McCain saying that he would vote for the bill, watching that, and it may have already happened, but just seeing if there's a decision yet from the senator from Maine, who seems to kind of dissent on a lot of what her Republican brethren are doing, seeing what her reaction is, kind of keeping an eye out for that. So watching a few things there, and just seeing if we can, maybe we can hit 2,700 in the S&P by the end of the year. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm looking now. While we were doing the show, there has been no breaking news on that, so it's still wait and see mood. But Five Below, not doing anything in the after hours at all. I was hoping to give you a little surprise Five Below breakdown, listeners. Well, actually, no, it's up about 76 cents, or about 1.25%. Actually, it's trading about $62 right now. So Five Below, a little more than $5. which is always fun. Mr. Meatball, I know you love shopping at Five Below. What else is catching your eye out there these days, sir?
That's the problem with XRT, is it's loaded with garbage. It's not even like good retailers.
Hey, Five Below is a fine establishment, sir. Just ask Uncle Mike.
Yeah, correct. And then I'm same as Mike. I think it's all tax reform. Non-farms I do not believe are tomorrow. I think they're the following. So that is all I'm watching is tax reform.
Well, they're actually pricing in a surprisingly juicy about $6.50, so over 10% for Five Below. So apparently they were expecting a little bit of shock and awe, and so far at least they're getting a nice resounding meh, as we like to say here on the old program. So maybe we need to watch Five Below a little more, perhaps a little more juicier than I think most of us would have expected. There's the music. All right, that music means we're done, listeners. What a fun one. We survived hurricanes in St. Charles and all sorts of madness from Olive Garden and everything else. Been a fun journey. Kicked it off talking about the weirdness we saw on the street today. Got into all sorts of fun with Uncle Mike loving himself some out-of-the-money calls. Who knew? Uncle Mike, front month, out-of-the-money calls, loading up, going big or going home for that gamma. All sorts of funky three-ways in the odd block, a lot of good stuff. Even got some funky questions from people like the Real Ute and others, and revealed the surprise secret, which is the #1 position in SPY. But before we go, let me go back around the horn, see what's cooking with each of my cohorts. Let's start in the land of the meatball, where I think after this show is done, he's heading out to his favorite and closest Olive Garden to get unlimited meatballs and all other good stuff. Mr. Meatball, what's cooking, sir?
Yeah, we're going to go there right before we go see the bar show with Sally Steele. We're going to go to the Olive Garden. It'll be great. We are just read the blog every day. We've been putting out all sorts of great stuff. Optionpit.com/blog. We're weeks away from our new members area, which I think will make a big difference. And again, if you're interested in volatility and don't want to do it yourself, then reach out to me at Carmeline Capital, and I can talk to you all about our vol fund and our broad cap hedge fund, which is launching December 31st.
I'm checking out your bar show here right now. They have a page on Facebook. I see a bunch of people in Viking hats, so not what I expected for a bar show. I'm sure it will be fun. Nothing says high comedy like lawyers. So check that out. This show also brought to you today by the Dow and the Bar Show. Go check them out. And last but not least, Uncle Mike, sir, what's cooking? Let's say I want to sling myself some skew. Where should I go? What should I do?
If you want to sling some skew, then I got the product for you. Give me a call. We'll talk about the skew fund. We can actually also talk about year-end tax strategies, because the end of the year is coming, and should you stay or should you go in terms of different stocks, give me a call. We can talk about such things. Also, if you want an advisor who is not afraid of the word volatility, feel free to give me a call, or afraid of the word rho, or deathly afraid of the word gamma. I am not afraid of any of those words. Contact me at 312-212-3531 or shoot me an email at mtosaw@rcmfs.com.
All right, check the man out, listeners. And on behalf of the greasiest of meatballs, who's heading to his favorite Olive Garden right now, and Uncle Mike, who hopefully is surviving the cyclone that's bearing down on St. Charles. We'll get them sorted out for Monday. Don't worry, listeners. And indeed, myself, I want to thank all of you out there in the listening audience for downloading, streaming, subscribing, sending in questions, listening live, all the fun stuff that you guys do. And don't forget, we're done today, but we'll be back tomorrow for Vol Views and for TWIFO. I got a feeling we're going to talk a little bit of VIX and a little bit of oil and maybe a whole bunch of Bitcoin on TWIFO. So we'll see. You guys can't get enough of that. And we'll be back on Monday for more of the Option Block.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.